The new Minister of Defense Andrei Belosov is appointed. But if you think that Russian army will become leaner, stronger, and more effective under Belosov's command, you are wrong. In this live stream, I'll show you that Russian army has started falling apart, actually. On May 21st, an unthinkable happened. In the Russian armed forces, Army's best general, the former 58th Army commander Ivan Popov, was arrested. Charged with a relatively minor crime, he was thrown into KGB's highest security jail, Lefortovo. The race is on, and we're watching who will destroy the Russian army faster. The Ukrainians from the west, or the Kremlin and its gang from the east. And I am betting that the Russian army will be destroyed from behind much faster. Everyone who knows a thing about Russian armed forces is shocked. But I personally am loving this grand show. And I invite you to join watching me. I'll be commenting every single day. Howdy, everyone. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. No propaganda, BS, or lies here. Only truth, common sense, and logic, and some emotions too, because I am a human being after all. Before I start, please be informed that today's live stream will consist of two parts. The story about the state of the current affairs in the Russian armed forces and, in the Russian government in general, and a prayer at the end. I actually wasn't going to do a live stream on our Russian army today. Wednesdays are usually different. I do World's News show, World's News as seen from Russia. But now we start seeing a political eruption happening in Russia. Major news come in every single day. And it falls perfectly well with my explanation of what we're seeing in Russia in the last 9 months or so, was so-called sugarcoating. Russian propaganda, authorities, and politicians were trying to hide harsh reality, and were painting a false but nice picture for everyone, painting the facade that was falling apart, so to speak. Well, folks, Vladimir Putin is pronounced the new old president of Russia. Heck, he was even anointed to the throne by the Patriarch Kirill. May 7th, go watch it. No need for sugarcoating anymore. And it's off. The first thing Putin does, he replaces Russia's Minister of Defense, the second strongest man in the country, reshuffles the government and announces major tax increases. These things are changing the political landscape of Russia, but that's not what I want to talk about today. I'll talk about that later. Now I'd like to zero in on the army. The new defense minister is a long-time Putin's economic advisor, an old egghead Soviet economic scientist born and raised in Gosplan system. Just knowing that makes me laugh. In Russian vertical of power, he was a nobody until recently, until a few days ago. Now he holds incredible power in his hands, or powers. He controls the armies, the fleets, the planes, everything. He even controls the nuclear button. Him, not Putin. As Putin would have gone through the Minister of Defense to activate it, would have to go, okay. Many, both Russian and foreign experts, have talked that a civilian, an economic scientist, has been brought to lead the Ministry of Defense to fix the war economy, to make the military-industrial complex work faster and supply Russian armed forces with stuff cheaper. In my last live stream, I called this live stream Russian Generals Are Panicking. If you haven't watched it, I'll place a link right over here. So check it out. It's really good. I explained why this isn't the case. Andrei Belousov will not be able to improve efficiency of the military-industrial complex, and he will never have any influence of the army itself, as he is not a military man. He is as far from the military as Venus from Uranus. I made a prediction that Russian army, toppled, left without leadership, will start falling apart. Any army is about discipline and subordinates, okay? And there's no leader in the Russian army now. Literally, there is no leader. Well, I didn't have to wait long to be proven right. The very next day, I made the prediction that, Russian army would start having troubles. Russia's best general was arrested and thrown into maximum security jail. Now, let me remind you the story of the general Ivan Popov. That's quite a story. And it goes back, well, at least to Wagner mutiny of last year. General Popov is one of the best generals in today's Russia. The former commander of the 58th Army. The decorated leader, he was one of the few Russian generals respected by the officers and loved by regular soldiers. Ivanov was the general who saved Russia from crushing defeat last summer in the south of Ukraine. I think many of you know the story. Moreover, I think this is the most important thing about Ivanov. He is not rich. In Putin's Russia, every general who is not rich must be placed into a museum for exhibition. Don't get me wrong, I don't like this guy. I think he's a war criminal, as everybody else who invaded Ukraine and killing Ukrainians. He was commanding the troops that invaded a peaceful country. He needs to be put to trial and, given prosecution that he deserves. Well, the prosecution probably will come much sooner than we think. Anyway, I'm just trying to be fair. I'm talking about Ivanov, so I don't like the guy. Not only he was a skilled general, but he was not pusillanimous. What a word, pusillanimous. Anyway, he was not a coward. Last July, during the Chief of Staff meeting, instead of usual lies and sugarcoating the reality, Popov stood up and told everyone as it was. The real state of things. He criticized the Armed Forces High Command for mismanaging the army, for not rotating the troops, for lack of artillery support, lack of air reconnaissance, and inadequate amount of ammo. The Chief of Staff, Gerasimov, freaked out right at the meeting, screamed at Popov, calling him scaremonger, and told him to shut up. Ivan Popov told Gerasimov with a straight face that he will be trying to get that information, the truth, to the commander-in-chief, Putin. Like Putin doesn't know, Well, that's what Popov announced. The commander of the 58th Army was immediately relieved of his duty. He made a public voice recording and sent it to personnel of the 58th Army, the officers and the soldiers alike, calling them brothers and telling them that Russian military leadership betrayed him, betrayed the country, and betrayed the 58th Army as well. He called the leadership, we'll understand that he was calling Gerasimov a traitor. An interesting thing happened. The personnel of the 58th Army recorded a video message that a bunch of soldiers and officers got together, and they basically made a recording. They made it public, warning that if anything bad would happen to the General Popov, their general, they would be moving to restore fairness. And everyone understood where they would be moving to. Last July, I mentioned in a live stream that there was a possibly second mutiny cooking on the way. Well, I take it that the Kremlin didn't want to escalate things in last July. Remember? Sugarcoating was on. So they simply isolated Popov from his army and sent him as far away as they could to Syria. In Russian army, to be sent to Syria is an equivalent to be sent to exile. Popov went away, and he was largely forgotten. Forgotten by the people, by most, but not forgotten by the Kremlin. Oh, those folks never forget, and they don't usually forgive. The Kremlin does not forget anything. Well, before I move further, I'd like to thank those of you who bought me coffees at buymeacoffee.com. You buying me coffees shows that you like and appreciate what I do so much that you support the channel. Thank you so very much. So, General Ivanov was returned to Russia and arrested immediately after the new Minister of Defense was appointed. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Do you know exactly when the arrest happened? Right after the two ministers of defense, the old one, Shoigu, and the new one, Belosov, returned from China. And I remind you that they both went to China. Putin brought Shoigu. My bet is that he didn't want to leave him unattended, unwatched. Okay, so just in case he brought him with him. So anyway, the arrest happened the next day after both returned. What a coincidence, right? Yeah, I don't personally believe in coincidences. Popov's charge is bogus. Theft of metal barriers for 100 million rubles. When the 58th Army was building the fortifications last year in southern Ukraine, they're claiming that someone, Popov, stole 100 million rubles worth, that's $1 million, worth of metal and sold it, okay? The thing is, the general was not in charge of procurement, yet he's charged with theft, okay? He couldn't have stolen anything. I mean, he is guilty in other crimes, and their crimes are war crimes, you know. What was he doing in Ukraine, okay? But I don't believe that he was stealing metal. If you want to know what happened to the metal, you probably should ask Timur Ivanov. He was in charge of all the money flows in the army. He might know. So anyway, the general Popov was thrown into jail. I'm a believer that in Russian armed forces, things are not well. That Russian armed forces are being destroyed from within. All skilled, experienced, and popular commanders who are supposed to be the leaders of the armed forces are considered a threat by both the Kremlin and by the High Command. The High Command is appointed according to their loyalty, not education, skills, track record, etc. In Putin's Russia, loyalty is what matters. Loyalty is what gets you jobs. Loyalty is what gets you power, positions, anything. It's about loyalty. No matter who you are, if you're loyal enough, you are all right. You're climbing up. So the skilled, charismatic, popular generals and officers are actually a threat to both the Kremlin, possible mutiny. Let's look at the General Popov. He publicly came out and he was close, okay? And his soldiers love him so much, he stood up and actually they supported him, okay? So possible mutiny, you know, steps away from it. And the High Command sees such generals as competition for their positions. What if something happens all of a sudden and those who are skilled, experienced, educated will be valued the most? The high command will have to go then, right? So look at how Gerasimov sees Popov, for example. Therefore, all skilled, popular, educated commanders should be neutralized. And neutralized they are. And Ivan Popov is the first one in line. He's arrested and put into the KGB jail Lefortovo. General Popov joins the company of General Ivanov and General Kuznetsov, who were arrested a couple weeks ago. They're already there, keeping him company. But there's an oddity here. And now, let's look at the details. Why the heck that's KGB's jail? That is a special place in Russia controlled by the KGB. This is the highest security prison in Russia. Well, it's not a prison, it's a jail. That's where people placed when the investigation is underway, and after the given sentence, they're moved to actual prisons, okay? What does Lefortovo have to do with the army? And this is a very interesting case. Look, army has nothing to do with Lefortovo. It has nothing to do with Lefortovo. And this is a KGB operation. There's a bigger play here, I believe. And let's just put the dots together. KGB is controlling Russia now, and it has no threats whatsoever, except for one, the army. Think of who is stronger, the KGB or the army. The answer is obvious. Tanks, planes, and troops win anytime. The Soviet Union fell apart because KGB was staging the coup, and the army moved in and basically said no. Okay, and the Soviet Union fell apart in hours. Look what happened to Yevgeny Prigozhin and his mutiny. Some say 20,000 troops. Some say 5,000 troops moved onto Rostov-on-Don and captured 1 million people city in a few hours easily. The city full of people of the KGB, of the federal police. Moreover, Southern HQ Command responsible for, this entire war with Ukraine. Everyone was captured in a matter of hours, short hours, minutes. So army always wins, and the KGB cannot get rid of the army for obvious reasons. Any country needs an army. Although I don't think Russia in the future will have an army, or it needs an army, this is a very complicated matter, okay? But KGB cannot just say, hey, let's disband the army. They can't do that. What they can do is get rid of the current army leadership and install the loyal leadership, or perhaps weaken the army to the point where it's not the threat any longer. Weaken the army? What about Ukraine? What about the war that is happening? Well, that's easy. They don't care about the Ukraine. Not their problem. They look further. What happens when Putin is gone? The very next second, he will be blamed by everyone. This is an example. Let me take a step backwards. Now, I'm following the news, all the news in Russia, probably all the news, right? And what I started seeing, folks, this is incredible. 3 weeks ago, all the official propaganda were of very high opinion of the Minister of Defense, Sergei Shoigu. 3 weeks ago. Now, they are insulting him. They're saying no good bomb, well, not bomb, but saying that inadequate, said that he was no good. He say that they diminish him by, putting his name in a certain way in Russian. It looks funny, We are seeing the start of bashing Shoigu, of putting Shoigu down. Some say Shoigu was promoted. He is not treated by the propaganda as if he is promoted to a higher position of the head of the Security Council. No, he's not. No, he's being put down by the propaganda right now. Okay, and it's just been a few days. It's incredible. What's going to happen to Putin when he's out of the Kremlin, doesn't have power anymore? The very next second, everyone will turn around of him. The same thing happened to Stalin, remember? The cult of personality of Joseph Stalin? Well, same thing is awaiting Putin. And the KGB is going to be right there. And they're going to be the first ones to blame. Ukraine? That's his fault. It had nothing to do with us. It's his decision. It's his responsibility. He did this, not us. No, you get the idea. So Popov was arrested, the early bird. And another odd thing is, who gave the order? Let's think about it. Russia's best general, loved by everyone. Who gave the order to arrest him? Gerasimov? That's a big if. Where is Gerasimov, after all? He wasn't seen in a while, hasn't been seen in a while, and there are rampant rumors that he is not, well, not well. Anyone remember Weekend at Bernie's? The last time in public they showed Gerasimov voting at the presidential elections on March 17th, he looked like Bernie. And I mean not at Bernie's finest hour. Gerasimov is technically still in, and he is still the commander. But most likely, he is the nominal commander now. Someone else either makes decisions for him or helps Gerasimov make right decisions. And we have no clue who jailed Popov. At least I don't know. One thing, I have not been able to figure this out. One thing for sure is that it was agreed and approved by Putin himself. And most likely he did that when he was in China. And that spells huge trouble for Russian armed forces. This reminds me more and more the situation that happened in 1936, 37, and 38 to Soviet Red Army. Some call it the Big Terror, and some call it the Purge. In over 2 years, 15,000 Soviet officers and generals, most of high command, and quite a few soldiers too, were arrested on fake charges, made-up charges, and executed, shot. It all started with one arrest on July 6. The commander of the 8th Brigade, Komdiv Schmidt, was arrested and killed as traitor. In the following 24 months, 15,000 officers followed the Commander Schmidt into the afterlife. Most likely, this happened because Joseph Stalin was extremely suspicious of everyone, and he saw army as potentially, staging a mutiny and taking them down. So this is what he did. Vladimir Putin is also very paranoid. He has been paranoid, now he's even more paranoid. He's following Joseph Stalin's suit. I think that he is the one controlling, perhaps architecting, I'm not sure about that, but he's definitely in the know. And it kind of starts looking like the Big Terror in Russia 90 years ago. 90 years later, the history starts repeating itself. Imagine what Russian generals think now. They're taught a lesson. You do anything that you're not told to do, and you'll be next. If we could get rid of Popov, the best of the best, the most popular friend of each one of you, we certainly can get rid of you. Imagine what the generals are thinking now. What they are preoccupied now. Do you think that they're thinking about Ukraine? They're thinking of how to save their butts. They're thinking of how to avoid the punishment that is coming. Now, the punishment is the prison term, but that's now. Later, the punishment could be your life. We've seen it before in Russia. I mean, the history repeats itself usually. You know, I feel odd. I see the signs. I put dots together, and things actually happen. A couple days ago, I made a live stream predicting big trouble in the Russian army, and the trouble started almost immediately. So I turned out to be right. I actually counted things of in the last year in 2023 when I was right and I was wrong. On 8 occasions, big things, I was right, and 2 I was wrong. But when I talk to Russian folks in Russia, and when I try to discuss these things with them, we completely misunderstand each other. You know, I called Russia and I asked them about Popov quite a few of them. They either are uninformed, and I think this is huge. I think this is was definitely the most major news of the last few days. Russian people don't think so. They don't care. I tell them, what do you think about, I ask them, what do you think about Popov and his arrest? Some don't know about him because it was in the Russian news that he was arrested. He was on charge of theft, okay? And some know, but they tell me, what are you worried about? What's the big deal? Well, he's just a general. And he was arrested. Most likely he stole things. And, since when the government arrests its own for stealing? Stealing is considered not only normal, but required, okay? That's why you go to the government to steal in Putin's Russia. It's the foundation of everything. You can't get rid of corruption. You can't get rid of stealing. It's just like a bloodline of everything, blood for everything, it's just the foundation, okay? So since when they arrest for stealing? They can arrest for treason, for, I don't know, for espionage or things like that, but not for theft. So, and I am yet to find one single Russian person, I've called quite a few and I discussed this, who would agree with me saying, oh yeah, it's a big deal about arrest of Ivanov. And it feels very odd. It feels like sometimes like I am mad because I'm against everyone. I'm against the entire country, not all the people I know. And things keep on happening to proving me right, but still it feels very, very odd. So most Russian folks don't think it's anything unusual, anything strange, anything worthy of paying much attention, okay? So I'd like to ask you, what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Because, it's very odd, very, very odd. Sometimes I start questioning myself, Anyway. I say it again. Appointing the new defense minister is ecstatic news for Ukraine. Russian armed forces are toppled. Gerasimov, who is officially in charge of the Ministry of Defense part, that is the military stuff, okay? Because the Minister of Defense is not the military guy. He's in charge of whatever he's in charge of, blah, blah, blah. But these people who actually fight, Gerasimov is their head, but he is kind of missing. He's not there. He's not well, most likely. And he's just a nominal commander. Basically, there is no leadership. And guess what happens to the army, or any army, where there's no leadership? Everyone tries to grab power as much as possible to become the next leader, or at least to save their butts if they're in trouble. And right now, the inside of Russian army is like a disturbed hive. There is a war for power and for money flows. So many people, there are 3 major generals arrested and around a dozen who have quit, resigned. Okay, so many positions for the grabs, and there's an assault on the Russian army at the same time. same time. And there are victims already, at least 3. The war with Ukraine is shifting inside the Russian army, into the very heart of it. And there will be arrests. There will be hundreds of them. And eventually there will be blood. And every time this shift inside, it takes away from the front lines. It takes away, every single shift takes away from the strength of Russia at the front lines. And that's definitely ecstatic news for Ukraine. So now, thank you so much. I now invite everyone to finish the live stream with a prayer. Thank you so very much. If you're religious, please pray. If you're not, well, please pray anyway. Call this any way you like. Sending good wishes, sending good vibes to people, or sending good energy, whatever. To me, it's the same. So let's pray for people. Thank you. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much for giving us this day. Thank you for putting food on our tables and giving roofs over our heads. Thank you for surrounding us with people who we love and who love us. Please give us wisdom to keep the skies above our children's heads safe and peaceful, and raise them in a way when they grow up adults, they will never fight with each other, but love each other and make this world a better place. For now, please keep our children safe and healthy, because they are our life and our world. Dear Lord, please help Ukraine and Ukrainians stop the bloodshed in Ukraine. Reach out and touch the hearts and souls of people who are responsible for war and blood, so they wake up and realize that they're still human beings. Fill their hearts with feelings, emotions, love. Soften their hearts so they make the decision to stop the bloodshed. Please help every single Ukrainian answer to their prayers and make their wishes come true. Dear Lord, also please help my country, Russia. Assemble your strongest angels with sharpest swords into a heavenly army led by Saint Michael in shining armors, and send this army down to the earth like heavenly avalanche to get rid of the demons who have hijacked Russia, who we know by their faces and by their names. Please have your angels help good Russians run the country, make it peaceful, loving, and respecting. Help those who are traveling, send them safe travels. Those who are in trouble of any kind, please help single mothers raising their children who are struggling, making their ends meet. No matter where they live all over the world, please help them. Help those who are helping Ukrainians, bless them. Please help the Ukrainians who are under attack by Russian forces right now, under threat of bombings and in danger. Please send safety. Dear Lord, please help those who are in need, the homeless, the jobless, the hungry, the sick, the addicted, the betrayed, the depressed, the ones who are losing their faith, the ones who are not feeling well about themselves, about their lives. Please help everyone who needs your help. Send love into their hearts, surround them with your warmth, and show them, have them feel your love. Show them that you're still with them, that you have not left them, that you support every step that they take, that you will never make them lonely. You will never leave them. Have everyone feel you right next to them. That will make their lives so much happier. Help everyone in need. Thank you so much for assembling us here, for allowing us to come together and pray every single day. Thank you for everyone who is praying along with me or simply watching us pray. Answer everyone's prayer and make everyone's wish come true. Thank you so much, dear Lord. Jesus Christ, amen. Thank you. I would like to say that you are awesome and you rock. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving me a chance to share my opinion. Please come back tomorrow for another live stream. I stream daily. And before I leave, I ask you, as usual, say out loud with me, as loud as you can, Carthago delenda est.